Today marks 1 year since Alexis Ware went missing in the upstate. The mother of two was last seen at the 7-Eleven on Highway 29 North in Anderson. Today, the Anderson County Sheriff's Office revealed that the father of Alexis's son is no longer a person of interest by detectives. That man was the last person to see Ware the day that she went missing. The FBI is also assisting in the search. There's a $5,000 reward being offered by Crime Stoppers for help in finding Alexis Ware.
On January 30th, 2022, 29-year-old Alexis Ware met the father of her children at a 7-Eleven on Highway 29 North in Anderson, South Carolina. Surveillance shows her handing over her two kids, then leaving in her red Honda. She never reached her next stop. 2 days later, her car was found abandoned in a remote wooded road in McCormick County, with her purse, phone, ID, and a bag of clothes inside. Her hair bonnet, the one she wore at the store, lay on the ground beside it. Despite extensive searches by law enforcement, including cadaver dogs, helicopters, and shoreline teams, no trace of her has been found. The trail ends with unanswered questions. Where did she go? And what happened in the hours after she left the gas station? Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin.
He was like, yeah, I said, man, I'm going to pull up. I'm going to church today. You know what I'm saying? So I pulled up. I sat in the car. I ain't even get out the car, man. I'm shedding tears because this shit hurt me. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never seen it like this. So, you know what I'm saying? I go to church. We go to church, leave church. Now, mind me now, before I went to church, Lex didn't even want me to go to church. She kept on saying, TJ, don't go to church. I keep seeing you down there on oncoming traffic like a car gonna hit you head on. She saw me a car crash, which I got in my inbox, or somebody got killed on the head-on car crash. I'm like, Lex, man, listen. One thing about it, you can't stop death. You feel me? Like, whatever happened, gonna happen. I ain't scared of it. I ain't scared of death. You know what I'm saying? We all gotta go. So, I went on to church anyway. She begged me not to go. I went on anyway. So, we left church, came home, changed clothes, and went to the game and watched the NFC and the ALC game. Went to Wild Wings. You know what I'm saying? Watched the Kansas City game up there at Wild Wings. Left Wild Wings, went to my aunt's house. You feel me? She called me. And I put on speakerphone, let my cousin hear how she talking out the side of her head. So she got there, she was like, she said, where you at? I said, I'm at my aunt's house watching the game. So she was like, well, come and meet me on 29 at 7-Eleven if we can get the kids. She said, I'm about to run out of gas. I got like 3 miles left. I said, okay. So as she talking, she like, TJ, watch out for these cars. Watch out for a white car, gray car, black car. Now, mind me, now I'm like, okay, so I put on speakerphone, let my cousin and everybody hear. So I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. So my cousin like, boy, go get your son, boy. So I was like, shit, I say no more. I doubt him up. We left. I pull up at 7-Eleven. You know what I'm saying? She's sitting at the gas pump. I get out, go in the car. Go in the stove. I pump 35 in her gas tank, and I put 20 in mine. I come back out, get my son out the car. You know what I'm saying? She asked me, could Naomi go with me, her daughter? I was like, yeah, she can go. So I was like, she said, okay. She said, TJ, watch out for this car. She kept pointing at cars, like white car, black car, gray car. She said, watch out for these cars. She said, matter of fact, don't stop at no red lights. So I'm like, man, what you mean? I said, babe, you need help. You need to get some help. So I'm like, she was like, she know, TJ, I'm telling you. She's like, give me a hug me. So I hugged her, you know what I'm saying? The hug didn't feel right. Something wasn't right. So I got there and hugged, got in the car, and I pulled off. For y'all, the one that's in Anderson, I turn on Amity Road as I pass Welfare Church. I barely passed Welfare Church. And she got dang on, she sped around me. Bus right going out Anderson Belton Highway. So I just started calling. I'm like, where the hell she going? She supposed to been following me to my mom's house. But she said she was going to her mom's house. So, I'm like, damn, I started calling. I called about 3 times. She cut the phone off.
Alexis Ware was 29 years old at the time she was reported missing on January 30th, 2022. Her physical description is documented as approximately 5'4" to 5'6" in height with a heavyset build, black hair, and brown eyes. She had multiple tattoos that could assist identification, including a rose on one hand, a feather or leaf design on another arm, footprint tattoos, a date reading November 30th, 19 on her arm, and additional marks on her shoulders and chest. Dental or medical notes relevant to identification indicate she wore dental prosthetics, reported full dentures, which is a notable factor for forensic identification. Other identifying features included ear piercings and distinctive body art patterns. Family and close friends describe routine habits such as maintaining a home-based salon, a schedule tied to client appointments, and active use of social media for business and personal connections. Personality snapshot from family and close friends portrays her as someone committed to her children and to her work. She operated a small cosmetology practice from home and maintained relationships within her local community and client base. Reports from those close to her note practical daily routines and a focus on providing for her household. Observers noted no public indicators that she was planning an extended disappearance. Immediate family included her mother and at least one sibling. She was the mother of 2 minor children. Family dynamics were described as close-knit in routine matters, with the children central to daily life. The father of her children, identified as the person involved in the last confirmed public interaction on January 30th, 2022, maintained an active co-parenting relationship and participated in custody/exchange arrangements. On the day in question, they met for a child exchange at a convenience store. This meeting represents the final confirmed in-person interaction before Alexis disappeared. Extended family members and close friends relied on her services and social connections. Some reported noticing change in her behavior in the weeks prior to disappearance. Those who relied on her for hairstyling, informal childcare coordination, or small business networking are among the contacts suggested for follow-up interviews in an investigation.
The McCormick County Sheriff has provided an update on the search for a missing woman who was last seen in Anderson County. Alexis Ware has been missing since January 30th. Her car was found on February 2nd in McCormick County. The sheriff says her car was found in a rural area surrounded by forest and farmland. After the car was found, crews did a grid search in that area with canines. Since then, the McCormick County Sheriff's Office has received several tips, and they have followed up, searching Hickory Knob State Park and several boat ramps there. 35 law enforcement agencies have taken part in the search. If you see Alexis Ware or have information about where she may be, you are asked to call the Anderson County Sheriff's Office. That number is 864-260-4405.
Alexis's principal occupation was cosmetology, performed primarily through a home salon setup. Her day-to-day work included scheduled client appointments, hair services, and management of supplies. She maintained a client base within her local area and used social media platforms to publicize services and engage with followers. In addition to routine salon work, she reportedly had business ambitions, including plans to expand or relocate for greater opportunity. Accounts indicate she considered moving to a larger market with goals such as opening a boutique or expanding her product inventory. Her online presence served both promotional and personal purposes. She presented a public persona that was professional and connected to community clients, while private communications reflected family matters and personal concerns. In the immediate period before January 30th, 2022, family members reported that Alexis received repeated unwanted phone calls and expressed concerns about being followed. She specifically mentioned the presence of a dark-colored truck that she felt had been following her on multiple occasions. Those close to her recounted statements indicating a heightened sense of unease, including verbalizations that she felt unsafe during certain drives. There were anecdotal reports of disturbed sleep and altered routines attributable to anxiety over the calls and the perceived following. Family accounts include remarks she made suggesting foreboding about her safety, but there are no public records of a formal mental health diagnosis. These reported warning signs form part of the investigative context and are cited by family as relevant to understanding risk and motive. Morning and afternoon of January 30th include routine personal activity and scheduled obligations consistent with her work and family responsibilities. Confirmed movements on record culminate in an evening meeting at a convenience store on Highway 29 North in Anderson County for a child exchange with the father of her children. Surveillance footage from the store captures her presence in the parking lot and documents the exchange and subsequent departure. The footage does not show definitive evidence of coercion or struggle in the lot. According to the father's statement, after the exchange, Alexis followed the family's vehicle. Then, at a red light, she overtook him and accelerated away at speed. Cellular metadata indicates her phone later registered activity approximately 30 miles from the gas station at around 8:15 p.m. Additional traffic camera observations reportedly placed her vehicle on roadways, including a segment near Augusta, Georgia, before it re-entered South Carolina. These sightings form part of the unaccounted movements between the convenience store and the later discovery of her vehicle. The convenience store camera confirms her presence and departure, but does not capture detailed interactions obscured by camera angles and lot traffic. Eyewitness descriptions from people who were present corroborate the basic sequence. A child exchange followed by her departure in her own vehicle. No independent witness reported a visible altercation at the scene. Observers in areas along projected routes reported seeing a red vehicle consistent with her car at various times. But these reports require corroboration through precise timestamps and camera footage. After departure from the convenience store, the father and family members attempted to contact her by phone when she did not arrive at her intended location. Calls went unanswered and routed to voicemail or were unreachable via standard cellular networks. There are no publicly disclosed emergency calls or last messages that provide a clear indication of direction or distress messages prior to the vehicle being located. The phone's metadata and carrier records, to the extent available, show the last ping and call attempts that place her device at the noted distance from the convenience store.
Good evening, Nigel and Kara. This billboard right here on Woodruff Road will now get thousands of eyes on it, and Ware's family hopes just one person can come forward to help bring Alexis home.
We want to remind it's been 5 months and she's still missing, and we just want her home.
A new billboard along Woodruff Road is looking to keep the search for Alexis alive.
Woodruff Road is a very, very busy road, and just putting it out there is giving me that hope.
Ware disappeared back in January in Anderson County, and even as the days pass, her family says they will never stop looking.
She is a mom, she is a daughter. Her kids miss her, they need her. Her mother misses her, we all miss her.
Later in the day, dozens of candles lit up and music filled the air.
For some reason, gospel just keeps me calm, keeps me grounded. And gives me the strength to keep pushing.
A single flame, signifying the hope of one day bringing Alexis home.
It's just thinking about how much I miss my baby, how much she means to me, how much I need her.
Ware's family says this will not be the only billboard here in the upstate. They plan on putting another one in Anderson County at a later time. But for now, live in Greenville, Carlos Flores, WYFF News 4.
On February 2, 2022, a vehicle registered to Alexis, a red Honda, was located on a rural logging road in McCormick County. The site is characterized by dense woods and is used for hunting and timber access. The vehicle's condition included external mud accumulation consistent with travel on unpaved surfaces. The vehicle was found within a jurisdictional boundary distinct from the county where she was last seen. Inventory of items observed at the scene included her phone, purse, identification documents, and a bag of clothing located inside the vehicle. Outside the vehicle on the ground, a black hair bonnet that she is known to have worn was recovered. No public inventory indicates significant personal effects removed, and the presence of identification and personal items inside the car has been interpreted by family and investigators as inconsistent with the planned voluntary disappearance. Local sheriff's deputies responded to the vehicle discovery and coordinated with neighboring county resources and search teams. Standard forensic steps implemented at the scene included photographic documentation, fingerprint and trace evidence collection where applicable, and evidence cataloging. K-9 units, including cadaver detection dogs, were deployed along search routes radiating from the vehicle's location. Aerial reconnaissance supplemented ground efforts, and water and shoreline scans were performed in proximate areas with accessible waterways. Evidence was collected and submitted for laboratory analysis in accordance with investigative protocols. The precise results of laboratory processing have not been broadly disclosed in public summaries. The surrounding terrain consists of dense mixed hardwoods, limited clearings, and nearby waterways. Access to the vehicle required travel on secondary dirt roads and limited off-road entry by foot. Searchers noted an absence of proximate dwellings within short walking distance of the vehicle and documented footprints and tire tracks consistent with vehicles and pedestrian movement in the days prior to discovery. Investigators recorded the absence of obviously staged disturbances such as large drag marks, though natural ground disruption and environmental exposure complicate interpretation of minor traces. Following the report of Alexis Ware's disappearance, the Anderson County Sheriff's Office assumed primary jurisdiction due to the last confirmed sighting occurring within its boundaries. Initial actions included taking statements from family members, registering her as a missing person, and entering her data into relevant law enforcement databases. Once her vehicle was discovered in McCormick County 2 days later, jurisdictional coordination became necessary. McCormick County Sheriff's Office assisted at the vehicle recovery site. Reports indicate that state law enforcement support through the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, was reportedly requested. However, the timeline of this request and the extent of their involvement was not publicly disclosed. Volunteer search and rescue groups, as well as community members, participated in organized searches, forming additional support beyond official agencies. A chronological timeline shows that the report was filed shortly after family members failed to reach her by phone. Law enforcement conducted welfare checks and attempts to trace her last known location. Upon discovery of the vehicle, initial scene processing was initiated with evidence cataloged before the vehicle was towed for further analysis. Investigative actions included recording visible items, searching immediate surroundings, and inspecting nearby wooded terrain. Following this, ground searches were organized, and calls to assist were made to external volunteer groups. By the end of the first week, K-9 search units, aerial surveillance, and water scans were implemented. Search area mapping covered grid systems in proximity to the logging road where the vehicle was found. Search teams documented coverage of wooded regions, roadside ditches, and bodies of water. Shoreline sweeps focused on locations determined most accessible from the vehicle on foot. Evidence processing began after scene capture, including fingerprinting, DNA screening, and trace collection from items recovered. Some items were sent for third-party forensic analysis. Public sources do not specify the full timeline of lab returns or the extent of external forensic involvement. Persons of interest included the father of her children, reported as the last person to see her, and other individuals in close contact with her before the disappearance. Statements were taken and alibis recorded. The father's account was reportedly consistent with his location records at the time following the vehicle exchange. No public statements confirm whether any alibis were disproved. Clarifications were made distinguishing individuals initially questioned from those officially ruled out. However, specific names other than immediate witnesses have not been released due to ongoing investigation. Public appeals were made shortly after the discovery of the vehicle, including announcements on television, social media, and law enforcement channels. A monetary reward was offered for credible leads. Tips arrived via phone and online systems, ranging from potential sightings to speculative accounts. Law enforcement triaged tips by verifying reported locations and comparing them with known movements. False claims and prank submissions resulted in redirected resources and temporary investigative delays. Communication with the family followed regular briefing intervals, although family publicly expressed concerns about the pace of investigation and clarity of updates. Family members reported difficulty receiving detailed investigative steps. Law enforcement provided general timeline updates via press releases. Discrepancies were noted between official statements and family accounts concerning perceived urgency. Ground search efforts included coordinated grid searches across wooded areas and road access points near the vehicle. Multiple man-hours were logged involving law enforcement, search and rescue teams, and volunteers. Cadaver dogs were deployed along likely travel routes and around shoreline areas. Each pass was documented with search times, route coverage, and outcomes, which reportedly found no trace of human remains or scent. Night searches were conducted using artificial lighting equipment and thermal imaging in select areas. Day searches followed routine grid protocols. Aerial searches used both helicopters and drones, covering broad area scans of forest terrain, logging paths, and adjacent fields. Imagery was reviewed for signs of disturbance or body placement. Water search operations targeted waterways and boat ramps in proximity to the vehicle discovery site, using sonar where required. These efforts did not produce conclusive results. Forensic findings publicly disclosed were minimal. Items processed included the phone, purse, clothing bag, and bonnet found outside the vehicle. No public confirmation of presence or absence of identifiable DNA or fingerprints was provided. Some sources suggest items were submitted to external labs, but results were not detailed in public records. Family members have requested further clarity regarding forensic work, including whether material remains were fully examined for trace evidence or if retesting would occur under new methods. Interpretation of physical evidence noted the bonnet located outside the vehicle, the phone and purse left inside, and clothing bag placement. Possible interpretations included departure under duress, unplanned exit, or staged abandonment. Forensic examinations could not definitively determine whether the vehicle placement indicated forced removal. Environmental exposure, including weather and terrain conditions, limited review of trace elements. The time between abandonment and scene preservation contributed to potential evidence degradation. The abduction scenario is based on personal items left behind, reports from family that she believed she was being followed prior to disappearance, and the remoteness of the vehicle location. Possible motives range from opportunistic targeting to pre-existing conflict arising from personal associations. Theories consider involvement from strangers, individuals known to the victim, or potential criminal elements. No public documentation confirms direct suspect identification under this framework. The voluntary disappearance hypothesis considers prior discussions of relocation or career changes. However, counterpoints include leaving behind her purse, identification, and children without communication or preparation. No documented financial withdrawals, travel plans, or digital signs of intentional disappearance were observed. Behavioral evaluations indicated she maintained routines associated with familial obligations, conflicting with voluntary departure models. Mental health or stress-triggered disappearance theories note accounts describing anxiety and potential premonitory comments. No official mental health assessment has been disclosed. Considerations include stress-related decisions or self-initiated removal from known locations. Ethical limitations prevent definitive public speculation without professional evaluation. Accidental misadventure was considered due to the vehicle's isolated location. Potential explanations include mechanical failure followed by disorientation or injury in nearby terrain. Environmental conditions such as uneven ground, restricted visibility at night, or hypothesized hazards were examined. Search results showed no direct evidence supporting injury or fatality within the covered area. Systemic or investigative failure theories suggest possible loss of momentum during early investigation stages. Challenges included coordination delays between counties, resource allocation limitations, and redirection of efforts following unreliable leads. False tips contributed to diverted manpower. Less conventional theories include spiritual or symbolic interpretations based on family-recounted beliefs. These considerations are typically included in narrative context but are treated without evidentiary weight in investigative frameworks. Responsible inclusion requires factual distinction and avoidance of leading conclusions. Following Alexis Ware's disappearance, her immediate family initiated consistent public efforts to sustain attention on the case and push for investigative progress. Family members participated in organized public appeals, appearing in local interviews and speaking at community gatherings to provide factual updates and encourage public assistance. Vigils were held in multiple locations to raise awareness and reinforce that the case remained active. These events were structured to present verified information, highlight the absence of closure, and request credible tips from attendees. Fundraising campaigns were established through verified platforms with the primary objective of covering search costs, legal consultations, and media outreach. Supporters contributed financially and also assisted in distributing printed flyers across multiple counties. Awareness campaigns on social media included daily updates, reposts of official contact numbers, and visual reminders of the missing person's appearance. Family-led organizers monitored engagement and adapted their messaging to remove emotional appeals, focusing instead on concise call-to-action statements. The family made direct outreach efforts to elected officials and regional law enforcement leaders, requesting transparency, resource allocation, and escalation to state or federal investigative units. These communications were documented through written correspondence and formal meeting requests. In instances where responses were delayed or insufficient, the family publicly disclosed the lack of progress to increase pressure and prompt further review. They also incorporated assistance from legal advisors to better frame their requests and ensure compliance with procedural guidelines. Community organizing escalated beyond the family as local groups assumed roles in distributing information, coordinating volunteer searches, and maintaining public interest. Billboards were placed strategically along major roadways within regions associated with the timeline of events. Funding for these billboards was sourced from community donations and local sponsorships. Social media campaigns utilized uniform graphics and designated hashtags created specifically to improve content searchability. Local news outlets covered updates through scheduled segments and feature stories, ensuring the disappearance remained part of ongoing discussion. Organizations focused on missing persons and marginalized victims amplified the case, citing it as part of broader concerns related to investigative disparities. These groups provided resources for family advocacy and connected them with specialists in cold case reviews. Online communities further contributed by compiling detailed timelines based on publicly available facts, mapping locations, phone data, and known movements to assist in visual reconstruction. Community forums facilitated the circulation of potential leads and cross-referenced early statements for inconsistencies, forwarding credible findings directly to the appropriate investigative agencies. Legislative advocacy emerged as a result of delayed investigative escalation. Family members and advisors began promoting proposals intended to mandate faster response protocols in missing person cases involving adults considered at risk. Proposed measures included automatic elevation to state-level review within specific timeframes, standardized interagency communication requirements, and guaranteed access to tracking technology where relevant. The rationale behind these changes was based on the loss of potential evidence due to elapsed time. Proposed legislation emphasized that immediate action could prevent data loss, such as overwritten surveillance footage and environmental deterioration of evidence. Implementation would require structured reporting thresholds, identifying cases qualifying for rapid escalation. Advocates highlighted the need for centralized databases and statewide coordination to reduce jurisdictional conflicts. Political challenges included resource allocation concerns, procedural resistance, and prioritization debates within legislative bodies. Advocacy continued through scheduled meetings with delegates, submission of policy drafts, and petitions addressed to district representatives. Supporters advised consistent public pressure as a means to maintain momentum and overcome bureaucratic barriers. In the immediate aftermath of the disappearance, custodial responsibilities shifted to available guardians, primarily members of the extended family. Routine adjustments were made to manage school schedules, transportation, and healthcare needs. Since the missing parent was the primary caregiver, the household experienced significant operational changes, requiring additional support from relatives and community members. For minors exposed to ambiguous absence, the psychological effects included confusion, disrupted attachment patterns, and concerns over safety. Without definitive answers or closure, children faced prolonged uncertainty, which specialists identify as a risk factor for long-term emotional distress. Counseling services were considered and accessed by some family members using funds from private donations. Financial consequences became evident as search efforts demanded resources not previously allocated in the household budget. Costs associated with travel, media outreach, legal consultations, and public events increased monthly expenditures. Furthermore, The absence of income previously generated by the missing person added to financial strain. Family members sought community assistance and temporary relief through fundraising and local sponsorships. Social dynamics shifted as increased visibility brought both support and public scrutiny. While some community members provided assistance, others speculated about the case, creating additional stress. Long-term needs included stabilization of childcare arrangements, psychological support, and the establishment of separate funds reserved for ongoing legal and investigative efforts. Within the broader family unit, the absence influenced emotional processing and relational patterns. Sibling and parental grief remained nonlinear due to uncertainty, generating long-term distress linked with unresolved trauma. Family members adapted roles, with some assuming advocacy responsibilities to maintain case momentum. Internal strain occasionally arose from differing opinions on investigative direction or public strategy, although most efforts continued collaboratively. Several critical gaps persist within the timeline. Movements from the convenience store to the vehicle's final location have not been fully reconstructed. Unknown variables include whether the missing person made any unrecorded stops or encountered individuals not yet accounted for in investigative reports. Surveillance along routes has not been fully recovered due to time-limited data retention policies. Key communications require further tracing. Reported unwanted or threatening calls were not conclusively sourced, and metadata correlated with these interactions remains partially unverified. Full cellular tower data linked to the period of disappearance may offer insights into location patterns but remains incomplete in public disclosure. Comprehensive forensic analysis of phone contents, including deleted data, is pending or undisclosed. Physical evidence warrants re-examination utilizing updated forensic methods. Items retrieved from the vehicle and surrounding area could undergo retesting for latent or touch DNA. Environmental DNA sampling may narrow down possible interactions. Soil analysis may reveal transfer evidence indicating previous vehicle locations or contact with other cars. Witness follow-ups remain necessary to account for possible inconsistencies or overlooked observations. New technological resources could assist in cross-referencing statements and reconstructing possible routes. Authorities may solicit additional private surveillance footage from properties within the projected area, particularly those not surveyed during initial searches. Cross-jurisdictional inquiries could include reviewing state line crossings, toll booth data, traffic camera archives, and commercial transport route logs. Transport networks within and beyond county lines may provide overlooked sightings. Records from medical facilities, shelters, or emergency services outside the region could reveal undocumented interaction but require authorization to access. Digital footprint analysis entails reviewing social media activity, including recent followers, direct messages, or unusual interaction patterns. Reviewing digital transactions such as banking records, appointment bookings, or travel-related payments may indicate premeditated plans or external contact prior to disappearance. The compilation of outstanding investigative paths highlights critical areas for reopening or expanding inquiry efforts as additional resources become available. Alexis Ware was a 29-year-old mother known for managing her responsibilities, operating a home-based salon business, and maintaining an active social media presence. She was described as organized in her daily routines and consistent in her family commitments. On January 30, 2022, she arrived at a convenience store along Highway 29 North in Anderson County, South Carolina, where she met the father of her children. Surveillance cameras recorded the exchange of the children, capturing a seemingly normal interaction. Alexis then drove off in her red 2019 Honda Accord. This was the last confirmed public sighting of her. The departure set immediate concern when she did not return home and failed to make expected contact. The transition from an ordinary family handover to a total disappearance established the urgency of the case. 2 days later, on February 2, 2022, the red Honda Accord registered to Alexis was located abandoned on a remote logging road in McCormick County, approximately 70 miles from the last known location. The vehicle was found partially stuck in mud. Inside were her purse, phone, identification, and a bag of clothing. On the ground near the vehicle, searchers discovered a black bonnet. The position of the items suggested no signs of preparation for voluntary departure. There were no indications of forced entry, struggle within the vehicle, or clear evidence of injury. Law enforcement was promptly notified by the individuals who came across the car. Family members were alerted and arrived at the scene to confirm ownership of the vehicle and the accompanying items. Initial search efforts included local deputies sweeping nearby woods and pathways with flashlights and verbal calling. Volunteer searchers began canvassing the area, but no trace of Alexis was found. Following the vehicle discovery, multi-agency efforts began. Teams organized ground searches using grid formation, with K-9 units deployed to track any scent leading away from the car. Drones and helicopters were utilized to survey forested areas and waterways nearby. Search and rescue logs indicated substantial terrain coverage with no confirmed sightings or evidence recovered. Interviews were conducted with the father of the children, who reported that Alexis drove away quickly after their interaction. Close friends and family were questioned on behavioral changes leading up to the disappearance, reporting that she expressed fear of being followed and had received threatening phone calls. Law enforcement did not disclose the full extent of digital evidence reviewed from her phone prior to disappearance. Conflicting narratives arose. Some noted she had plans to relocate and expand her business, suggesting potential voluntary disappearance. Others pointed to signs of fear and abrupt abandonment of essential items, suggesting possible abduction. No persons of interest were formally identified publicly. Forensic processing of the recovered items did not yield conclusive DNA or trace evidence connecting to a third party. No major leads emerged from cellular pings or surveillance analysis beyond the last known activity. The case raised attention to systemic issues in missing person investigations, particularly in cases involving adult women where immediate danger is not recognized. Family members expressed concerns about delayed escalation and insufficient deployment of state resources within the first 48 hours. They organized public awareness campaigns, vigils, and social media outreach to maintain visibility of the case. Billboards were installed, and documentary-style online content was developed to request tips. Legislative efforts began as the family advocated for improved policies to expedite missing adult investigations. Public pressure increased, urging the adoption of procedures similar to those applied in child abductions. Community organizations focused on missing individuals in marginalized demographics supported the family in coordinating outreach and search funding. Law enforcement maintained the case as active but provided minimal updates. Resource allocation, jurisdictional limits, and unconfirmed leads caused search momentum to diminish over time. Community volunteers continued periodic researches of surrounding areas. No confirmed sightings or evidence updates were reported to the public. As of the most recent status, Alexis Ware remains missing with no confirmed sightings or recovery of physical or digital evidence directly indicating her movements after January 30, 2022. Unresolved questions include what occurred between her departure from the convenience store and the abandonment of her vehicle, the significance of her personal items being left behind, and the origin of the threats she reportedly received. Viewers are encouraged to provide any factual information directly to official law enforcement channels or documented tip lines. The case requires public awareness, responsible information sharing, and advocacy for systematic improvements in missing person response frameworks. No conclusions have been drawn, and the investigation remains open. Immediate family members, to provide personal insights, behavioral patterns, and last conversations. Father of her children, to detail the final confirmed interaction and vehicle departure. Close friends, clients, and coworkers, to confirm any notable changes in routine, concerns expressed, or future plans. Local law enforcement representatives, to explain investigative timelines, actions, and evidence handling. Search and rescue personnel and K-9 handlers, to describe the terrain, search process, and scent tracking results. Forensic analysts, to discuss evidence collection procedures, environmental interference, and reanalysis potential. Legal experts, to assess missing person investigative protocols and propose enhanced legislative frameworks. Community advocates, to cover the role of nonprofit support, visibility efforts, and policy lobbying. Animated maps showing the last known position at the convenience store, projected route estimates, and vehicle discovery location. Markers illustrating phone activity timestamps and any known camera captures. Static display of convenience store surveillance footage showing the handover. Photographs of the abandoned vehicle taken during discovery. Exterior visuals of Alexis's home and business workspace to represent day-to-day context. No dramatizations or speculative reenactments. Demonstrations of how grid searches operate in dense wooded terrain. Instructional segments on cadaver dog scent tracking methodology. Lab footage demonstrating DNA and trace evidence testing processes without referencing specific results. Interviews filmed in controlled settings with respectful framing. Visuals of family organized vigils, poster distributions, and community meetings. Symbolic imagery to communicate ongoing search without exposing minors or compromising privacy. This section addresses the necessary practices for presenting Alexis Ware's case in a responsible, fact-based, and professional manner. The goal is to inform the public accurately while maintaining legal integrity and protecting those directly affected. Content should be structured clearly, avoid sensationalism, and contribute constructively to the search for answers. To prioritize the protection of Alexis Ware's children. Their physical, emotional, and psychological well-being must remain uncompromised. Any visuals, names, or narrative details that could expose their identities should be excluded from public materials. If interview content involves references to personal interactions, family dynamics, or moments of high emotional impact, informed consent must be secured in advance from participants. Consent should not be assumed. It must be documented and voluntarily given, especially when involving content that may revisit trauma. Sensitive material, including footage of family homes, voice recordings of minors, or communication that occurred privately, should not be included unless necessary to the factual understanding of the investigation and explicitly approved by relevant parties. Care must be exercised when depicting family reactions, particularly during search operations or public appeals, to ensure their vulnerability is not exploited. Information must be presented with strict adherence to verified facts. All timelines, last known interactions, vehicle recovery details, and statements from law enforcement should be clearly identified as either officially confirmed or derived from family accounts. Any content based on recollection or secondhand information should be labeled as such and not presented as established truth. Where possible, claims should be cross-verified through documentation such as police logs, search operation reports, vehicle processing records, and official investigative statements. In cases where internal investigative data is not publicly available, material should be clearly attributed to public sources or family briefings. Content must avoid including any assumption, speculation, or narrative dramatization. When referencing key details such as the vehicle being found with personal items inside or reports that Alexis felt she was being followed, clarify whether these statements stem from documented reports or personal testimony. The narrative should not extrapolate beyond what the records provide. If data is incomplete or redacted, this should be explicitly stated to uphold transparency. The case must be reported in a straightforward tone, without the inclusion of emotional language or graphic descriptions. Avoid using dramatized reconstruction, embellished dialogue, or speculative motives. Present only confirmed physical evidence found in and around the vehicle, without implying force, struggle, or intent unless officially established. No individual should be named as a suspect or implicated through suggestion unless publicly charged by authorities. Statements of concern or conflict made by associates must be described as unconfirmed unless verified through official documentation. If referencing potential scenarios such as abduction or voluntary disappearance, they should be described strictly as investigative theories under consideration, not conclusions. Any details about searches or community involvement should focus on procedural operations rather than human emotion. This approach protects the integrity of the investigation and prevents misrepresentation. Narratives must uphold neutrality and avoid reinforcing assumptions. Reports should include clear directives on how the public can safely and constructively assist the investigation. Provide verified contact channels, including the designated law enforcement agency's phone number, or tip submission platforms. Only official contact points should be mentioned. The audience must be explicitly discouraged from attempting independent investigation or engaging in vigilante behaviors. If supporting organizations, search groups, or legislative advocates are included, ensure they are registered and authorized participants in the case. Encourage viewers to share verified flyers or factual case summaries, rather than speculative content or unregulated commentary. Emphasize the role of formal collaboration over public interrogation of family members or key witnesses. On the evening of January 30th, 2022, Alexis Ware was last seen at a 7-Eleven in Anderson County, South Carolina, after handing over her children to their father. She departed in her red Honda. 2 days later, her vehicle was discovered abandoned on a rural logging road in McCormick County, containing personal belongings. Extensive searches and investigative efforts have not located her or provided a definitive explanation of her disappearance. The timeline between her departure and the vehicle discovery remains incomplete. The family continues to request public assistance through legitimate channels, asking individuals with relevant information to come forward. They also seek sustained attention on the case to prevent it from losing investigative momentum. Support from the community through official platforms and verified missing persons networks is needed. The case highlights areas of concern regarding missing persons response times, interagency communication, and accessibility to state-level resources. Advocates are pursuing procedural and legislative improvements aimed at enhancing early search escalation and ensuring more efficient cross-jurisdiction cooperation. These changes aim to prevent similar delays in future cases. Submit any credible information directly to the investigating law enforcement agency. Share only verified case updates from official channels. Report any relevant digital footage or timeline information to investigators. Support established missing person organizations and advocacy efforts focused on procedural reform. Do not initiate unapproved searches or contact individuals linked to the case. The following investigative actions are recommended for continuation or review. Compile a comprehensive timeline based on phone tower pings and cross-reference with available road and traffic camera footage. Re-request all surveillance from nearby businesses, residential areas, and interstate routes within the time window between departure and vehicle discovery. Reprocess physical evidence using advanced forensic techniques to identify any trace or latent DNA. Conduct follow-up interviews with key witnesses using structured, non-leading questioning and cross-check against the verified timeline. Audit tip submission records to identify overlooked or potentially correlated patterns among lower priority reports. Reassess alibis using external corroboration such as digital location data, transaction logs, or independent witness testimonies. In the event of limited local resources, request formal assistance from state-level investigative units, documenting all stages of the process. Release an updated, concise timeline and verified evidence summary to the public to encourage precise and focused tips. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions.